Story 1. I led a small group for high school boys when I was 19 at a youth program. At the end of the year, one of the students pulled me aside and said I was a perfect mix of challenging and encouraging. It planted the seeds that made me want to become a therapist. Story 2. You're a good man. An elderly lady told me that when I was a student in my mid-20s. It felt so good that it is all I have ever really wanted to be since. Story 3. If a woman compliments a man on a piece of clothing he is wearing, you can bet it will become his favorite for years. Speaking from personal experience. Story 4. I met a girl at a bar, and we were making out in the parking lot when she stopped and said, "You are a really good kisser." I have been riding that high and trying to live up to it ever since. Story 5. Not a compliment, someone told me I wouldn't be able to achieve something. I was skinny fat and had a panic disorder. Since then, I have been powerlifting, eating clean, doing therapy, and I also got medication for attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. That person doesn't come at me anymore, and I'm working towards my goals every day. Story 6. I was at a grocery store in line, and the woman next to me seemed visibly flustered. I leaned over and asked, "Is everything okay?" She proceeded to share her feelings for 10 minutes, and I said very few words, mostly just nodding in agreement. At the end, she hugged me and said, "All I needed was someone to listen," then went on her way. I don't know her name, and I will probably never see her again, but I felt great being able to help someone, and she showed appreciation, not just an expectation. Story 7. In 8th grade, I received an anonymous love letter. It essentially said I was beautiful inside and out and that I shouldn't listen to other people because I was bullied in 8th grade. Felt like I had ascended. There was another time in 11th grade when someone said, "No, don't pick him for our Jeopardy group. He doesn't know anything." Then my crush responded, "I mean, he's smart about some things." She then asked me if I was good at psychology, which was the class we were in. I said yes, and she invited me to their group. At that point, it felt personal. We would win that Jeopardy game only because the girl I had a crush on said I was smart. I felt great for the rest of the week. Story 8. I have a friend who is black. We grew up together, skated together, and went our separate ways after school. One day, he messaged me unexpectedly and said, "You never referred to me as your black friend, just your friend. This makes me smile to this day." Story 9. It's surprising how few compliments men receive. I would feel quite down if I went years without hearing one. I always make it a point to tell a man he looks great or something similar. The smile is priceless every time. Story 10. Not sure if I have ever received a compliment that changed me. Perhaps criticism has had more of an impact. The best compliment I have received, echoed by several people, is that I gave them the confidence to be themselves and to be proud of who they are. Story 11. My wife told me I was a good man. Literally, no one had ever said that to me. I started striving to be the man she believed I was. Story 12. At work, I disliked creating maps for clients, but one of my toughest colleagues said that a map I created looked really cool. I put a lot of effort into that map and made it look impressive, and now I'm known as the map specialist in the office. Story 13. I grew up poor, raised by a single mother with 2 siblings, living in a motel from ages 5 to 18. As the middle child, I was not a particularly good kid. I wasn't criminally bad, but I acted out in class and was resistant to authority, likely because I didn't have a father. I believe I was always a bright kid. I read a lot and was witty enough for my teachers to recognize that there was more substance behind my behavior. In hindsight, I struggled with low self-worth from a young age and didn't think I would ever amount to anything. By my junior year of high school, I was on track to not graduate with a grade point average around 1.4, and I acted out as much as I could. One English teacher saw something in me despite my outward behavior. I remember her saying I was smart and that I could be a lawyer or a doctor one day. That encouragement took me by surprise. No other teacher had ever said anything like that to me. That moment truly changed my life. I always wanted to join the military, specifically the Marine Corps, because my grandfather served in the Korean War. I never thought I was in shape enough to accomplish that. When recruiters came for career day, I saw a brochure about becoming a Marine officer, which required a college degree. This seemed impossible with my 1.5 GPA. However, something my English teacher said stuck with me, and I set my mind on that goal. I barely scraped by and graduated. I attended community college, transferred to a university, got in shape, and was accepted into one of the Marine officer programs. I graduated cum laude from my university, ironically majoring in the subject that nearly prevented my graduation from high school, and served for 8 years as an infantry officer in the Marine Corps. I became everything I admired as a child, despite never believing that I could. Coming from a long lineage of law enforcement, I transitioned from the Marines to federal law enforcement, fulfilling a childhood dream. Since I was about 19, I have found myself in circles with accomplished men and women from privileged backgrounds, and I still can't believe that I am included among them, despite my struggles to graduate high school. No one knows my upbringing or where I came from, but I am truly grateful to that junior English teacher because I believe she changed my life forever. Story 14. A boss told me that I was the hardest worker he had ever hired. I take pride in not being complacent. I always strive to outperform those around me. Story 15. Reading these comments makes me sad that many people grow up without hearing anything positive about themselves. I always gave my sons compliments while they were growing up, and now that they have their own families, they are wonderful human beings. If you see something nice about someone, tell them. It means a lot. Story 16. I received one compliment over 20 years ago in high school. A girl told me I would look cuter if I shaved more often. However, that never changed me. I have been sporting a 5 o'clock shadow since 7th grade, and I will not become someone who spends 15 minutes every morning shaving. When I did try to shave, my face ended up looking like I had used a broken beer bottle. I tried everything, but it just isn't happening. Story 17. A woman recently told me that I have a nice voice when I said, "just browsing," in her store. It was the first compliment I remember receiving from an unbiased source. Story 18. During my senior year of high school, a long-term crush told me I had really nice calves. It was such a strange compliment that it boosted my confidence in an unexpected way. Story 19. I used to drink heavily. A good friend told me that being drunk did not suit me. This really reinforced my decision to quit. Story 20. We have experienced a significant number of family deaths in the last decade, the most recent being my father-in-law. On the way back from the hospital after he passed away, my mother, sister, and I stopped at a restaurant since the drive home was 2 hours long and we hadn't eaten all day. My mother was upset but trying to stay composed, and my sister was similarly affected. My sister then exclaimed, "Why is it that when everything goes wrong, you are the only one who holds it together?" My mother did not have an answer, but she laughed and I was puzzled. My sister pointed out that I had essentially taken control and managed the day while everyone else was crying or experiencing a breakdown. I was genuinely taken aback, as it had never occurred to me that I was doing this, but it certainly changed my perspective on myself and how I handled difficult situations. Story 21. You have perfect nipples. The next day, I cut out holes in all my shirts, even for work, and I have been free ever since. It was the best change I ever made. Story 22. I am an above-average-looking guy, but I was always very skinny. I was so skinny that it made me insecure about my body throughout my teenage years and the first half of my 20s. After a tough breakup, I hit the gym hard and gained about 15 kilograms of muscle. One day, I was running at the beach, shirtless, and a group of women, about 10 of them, looked at me and said loudly, "Wow, girls, look at that." All 10 of them looked at me with wide eyes and open mouths, and I am still enjoying that feeling 5 years later. Story 23. You explain things clearly and in a way that everyone can understand. Not everyone can do that. I have loved teaching for as long as I can remember, but no one really acknowledged it until this person I looked up to said this to me. It gave me the confidence I needed to choose academia, and I dream of becoming a professor one day. Story 24. Not exactly a compliment, but over 10 years ago, I was entering a Burger King when I encountered some strangers. I held the door for them and went in to place my order. It appeared to be a father with his children. After I had ordered, the man returned, paid for my meal, and told me to keep being nice. This moment has stayed with me, and in addition to continuing to be nice whenever possible, I also strive to pay it forward as much as I can. Story 25. I was a late bloomer. Even when I entered university, I was a virgin, somewhat unsocialized, impulsive, and a bit immature. I was remarkably insecure. In my first year, one of the girls I met wrote me a letter from her campus while we were both studying for our upcoming exams. In it, she expressed that she missed me and mentioned having withdrawal symptoms from our time together. It was a new experience for me, possibly the first time a girl had told me she was thinking about me and missing me, that I had made such an impression on her that she wanted me to know. It might not seem significant, especially to those more experienced, but it felt like a light switched on in my mind. It was like a torch illuminating a hidden beauty that had been in darkness all that time. I could almost hear a part of my brain telling me, "See, you're not so bad." 30 years later, I still remember that feeling of pleased disbelief that this wonderful girl would want to share that with me. Story 26. If you weren't wearing sweatpants all the time, it would be easier to make out with you since you aren't looking that bad. That's what someone said to me when she was drunk, and I basically stopped wearing sweatpants after that. I was later told that she referred to sweatpants as the only turnoff for her. Story 27. You make people feel warm and safe. I hope you know that. I can't express how grateful I am for a woman who has said that to me. Story 28. That color looks good on you. It took me some time to discover what suits me and what my personal style is. So when someone says this, it gives me a nice little boost. Story 29. Your positivity is contagious. I cannot be around you and feel bad or even sad. I was going through a challenging time and concealed it from my friends. This one comment inspired and motivated me to help others when I could not do it for myself. I am in a much better place now, but I will always smile and strive to be a light for those in need, just as I needed it too. Story 30. I was in line ordering food at a sandwich shop when a mother and her young daughter stood behind me. I guess I said all my please and thank yous, because the little girl turned to her mom and said, "Wow, mommy, that man is really nice." The mom replied, "She never says stuff like that. Thanks for making a good impression on her." It left me beaming for the rest of the day. Sometimes it's just the simple things that are the best. Story 31. This is great. You should open a bakery. This was in response to some cheesecake cupcakes I made. I don't want to open a bakery because I don't want to turn a hobby into a job, but it did inspire me to do more baking for others. Story 32. You are attractive without your glasses. This comment in high school was soul-crushing, and I felt its impact for years afterward. Story 33. While ordering a coffee at my usual stop recently, the barista told me, "Your voice sounds like you should be doing book reviews on National Public Radio." I have always disliked the sound of my voice, but this compliment changed my perspective a bit. I would love to explore options like news reporting or voice acting, but I have no idea where to start. Story 34. A girl outside a show told me I had a silver aura and that I could make a whole crowd feel better through my presence. I will never forget it, nor will her boyfriend, who was standing right there. I was appreciative but awkward. Story 35. When I was young, a woman said, "You're going to be a heartbreaker." It scared me so much that I felt nervous around girls until my mid-20s. I didn't want to be that guy. Story 36. You're so talented. That was the first time I was told I was actually good at something. I had no idea I could have talent in anything, so I made it my career. Story 37. As a person with low self-esteem, I often feel like the ugliest creature on this planet. However, I started to improve my appearance and received many compliments this year. The best one was from a complete stranger. "You can attract any girl you want with those looks and your aura." They asked, "How many proposals have you received so far?" "Too many." Despite this, I still struggle with my self-image because of a few past experiences that I will never forget. Story 38. To clarify, when I was in high school, my brother was dealing with many issues, including rehab and jail, so he wasn't around much. Story 39. Actually, there are two instances that come to mind. A young female McDonald's cashier once said to me, "You have beautiful eyes. They're like honey." This was unusual for me since younger women rarely compliment older men. An ex once told me, "You have a perfectly sized penis." I've heard varying opinions from different women, with comments ranging from it being too big to too small. At around 7.5 inches, it is what it is. Story 40. During a review of my work by the district manager, it was noted, "He has more will to succeed than any two of my managers combined." Story 41. My parents' friends told me that I was incredibly smart. They talked for 10 minutes about how intelligent I was. It was really nice because I'm not the most confident. Story 42. 12 years ago, an older woman who worked as a lunch lady at college told me I had beautiful eyes. I don't think I've ever received a compliment like that before, and I haven't had one since. It made me feel really good, and it makes me smile today just thinking about it. Story 43. When I was about 13, my girlfriend said I looked stylish in a cap. I wore a cap consistently until I was about 30. Story 44. I can't think of anything. It sounds depressing at first, but I have received compliments at various times. Not often, but it has happened. I just don't remember any. Story 45. I have always struggled with drawing, and it has been quite challenging. Despite this, I decided to study 2D animation in college. I was not very skilled, but my teacher told me something at the end of the first semester that I still remind myself of today. When you started, you weren't the best, but of everyone, you progressed the most. Now, nearly 2 decades later, I still find drawing difficult, although I have a fine arts degree. Interestingly, I am also a machinist now. When I began, I was not proficient in that area either, but I now share my story and experiences by speaking at various schools. Welcome to my talk. Story 46. Years later, my coach told me, "The other person had talent, but you had hard work. That made you more successful." I was good, though not a top athlete, and always believed I was the talented one. However, that changed how I view myself and made me stop downplaying my own efforts. Story 47. Not exactly a compliment, but a few years ago, I volunteered at a Christian Bible club, even though I am agnostic. All the kids wanted to hang around me, talk to me, and be in my group. They had to make posters about why they love Jesus, but instead, they created posters about why they thought I was cool. When I stopped going, they were apparently devastated. I suppose I must have been doing something right, considering I was one of only 2 men among the 5 or 6 women who volunteered. I hope they are all doing well. Story 48. In high school, my honors English class had to write a paper about Moby Dick. After grading the papers, our teacher mentioned that the entire class had missed the point of the assignment, except for one student. He decided to read that student's paper and have the whole class rewrite their essays. When he read my paper, it was the first time I thought, "Oh, maybe I'm a good writer," which set the course for the rest of my life. Story 49. Your situation is surprising. I dated a girl in high school, and later my brother started dating her in college. She didn't realize he was my brother until she came home with him for Christmas break. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.